That's why you're the man. That's why everybody loves Chris. That's a good point. Yeah. He should be.
He told me.
No, I promise you, I think he sits out there in the parking lot and waits until.
He almost has to. It's a 450. There's no way he can have it that close every
Does
time.
that for the television.
Yeah, and it's 4:59. No.
Send him a text.
I am.
Well, word, Darren. Is he out there?
No, yeah.
He's right in the middle of the sale or something.
He's pushing it close tonight.
Close.
Give him a second.
It's all right.
Where you at? All right, we're going to start. Good enough. All right.
I heard him say he was in agreement with that.
Okay, good. All right, bye.
All right, we're going to get started with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Troy, will you lead us in a word of prayer, please?
Our Father, we come before you today. We're so thankful for the opportunity to be here. God, I pray that you would be with our city council tonight and our mayor. I pray that you give them the wisdom they need to conduct business and lead this city forward. I pray that you'd help us as citizens to pray for them and to be a help to them. I pray, Lord, that you just continue to send us rain. Thank you for the rain we got last night. And we just ask that everything be done be for your glory. Thank you for Christ dying on the cross for our sins, being buried, and raising again the third day for our salvation. In the name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
As most of you know, with the sudden passing of Councilwoman Phyllis Sykes, we're all heartbroken. She was a great friend of mine, not only a council person, but a great friend of mine. And I'd like to take a second to take a moment of silence in her honor. Thank you. All right. I think we've got a busy special meeting. With it being a special meeting, we will open it up after the update on Lake George for just a couple of questions. Probably won't take as many as we normally do with it being a special council meeting and we have several things on the agenda. So with that being said, Adam, do you have the update on Lake George and the water supply?
Sure. Why don't we first start with rural water, give them an opportunity to do their presentation so that if they need to travel out, they can get in and out of here. Do you want to go up to the podium?
Cody, do you care to step up here to where they can hear you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. I don't like being center.
I know, I'm sorry.
All right, several things to address this evening. And so we have been here now the whole month of July, definitely the latter part of June. Rural Water has spent roughly between four of us, a little over 600 hours invested here doing what we've done. So going back through information, recalculating information, making sure that we had all this correct, I am able to present this tonight with 100% clarity on our behalf. So when we first arrived, the system was flowing a total of off-demand time of 189 gallons per minute. And we'll get into some other numbers, just try to bear with me, take notes if you need to make it make sense. 189 gallons a minute. The system, based on average consumption and the amount of customers, we get a demand factor of what it should be at nighttime. That number being 42 gallons a minute.
I'm sorry, how much?
42. When we flowed last week, we had it down to 46 gallons a minute. So that's within, four, always give or take one or two for some, different factors, but give or take 4 or 5 gallons a minute unaccounted. So there's been 143 gallons a minute in recovered loss. And I will definitely say that through the efforts of us trying to head that off and the work that we're trying to do at the plant, some other backside work we're working with Division of Water on and other things, I do publicly want to say that I appreciate Reveal coming in and doing the hard work that they have done. Without those guys, this wouldn't have gotten done as quick as it did.
Right.
So I definitely want to sing them praises. I will get into the some actual financial numbers in a moment, but just a few things that I want to make clear. And for the future, I'm working on a water loss prevention and conservation plan for the city, and it will be city specific to different parts of the city. One thing that I've been told, names are not important, but one thing that I've been told by 2 handfuls of people is that, the leaks are almost done. Like, we're almost done, the leak detection's almost done, we've got everything fixed. Last night, right in the middle of the monsoon, I got out just in the nick of time, but I was working last night. And so the system is actually up again. Now that the process is ended, you've tightened up the system, so there's more pressure in the lines, causing the old stuff to pop. You know what I mean? So, and we're not up we're not back to square one by any means, but we're up about another 22 to 27 gallons a minute, give or take. So a few service leaks for sure. The total amount of leaks that have been fixed are a little over 20 currently that I am aware of. I want y'all to know that with a couple of these things that I'm going to bring up, leak detection never stops, ever. Like, that's something that is ongoing all the time. I'm not saying that y'all should come up with a budget solution to hire somebody to just do that. I'm not going to advise that legally or tell you that that's what you should do, but I would seriously think about having somebody dedicated to doing those kind of jobs with the city, just to keep on top of it. There is a big swing in the gallons per minute that flows at nighttime. That concerns me, and I don't know what it is, and I have not been able to put my finger on it, and that's been going the whole time I've been here. What I mean by that is whenever we're flowing the system, and this is from like 11 p.m. to 2, sometimes 3 a.m. Typically most people are, not using water. If they are, it's an occasional toilet flush, maybe somebody's showering, whatever. We're seeing a swing of like 30 to 40 gallons a minute that'll go up and run for a certain amount of time, and then it comes down. No explanation. I've contacted the jail, thinking, hey, maybe they're doing laundry, something like that. talked with Par 4, but Siemens is closed at that time, so we're talking to Par 4. We've talked to any commercial accounts that we know are still using the city water to figure out where that is. Haven't been able to put our finger on it yet. So that's a very strange issue that we're still trying to figure out. Two of these things that I want to say right here are going to be in the water loss plan that will be presented. One is monitoring the system. Currently, there is no way to monitor the system from an operational standpoint. With that being said, I have actual quotes from the suppliers that supply the city currently. I did not step out on anything. They're people who y'all have accounts with. And it's looking about $25,000 to $30,000 is what it will cost to put an actual master meter in the system that will show exactly how much water the system is using, that you can show gallons per minute. It would just be like a real-time flow meter. And you'll be able to access that information, data log it. If you go a certain route, you can pull it up on your phone and see it, instantaneously know if you have a leak. Jeff and the guys at the plant would have access to that and be able to let distribution know as soon as they see a problem. Time will go down on lost water with that. With Reveal coming in, utilizing the tools that they used, which are leak loggers, those would be a $50,000 investment. I'm not saying again that you have to do that, but I want you to have these numbers because we're going to talk numbers here in a minute. So that's a $50,000 investment that would allow the guys in the field to, at all times, they could do it every day. They could deploy these loggers every day. That could just be part of their routine daily work. And then every morning come in, unload them, get the data, check what they need to, move on. Fix something if they need to fix it, or keep moving on. That's going to give you day to day, what is my system doing to save water? Okay. Since Crittenden Livingston has been supplying the plant, there were a few days that the plant did not have to run, and I say run, I mean treating water. They were able to just pump the water. The water loss was low enough that they were sustaining on what Crittenden Livingston was sending. And I'm not saying that's the answer by any means at all. That's not what I'm saying, but it got down that low. That was a good problem to have. But we still have to look at turnover in tanks. We still have the Sturgis project that's being looked into coming, or well, it is, I guess now, is coming in, as well as them being able to keep water, moving through the plant. Everything sounds easy as far as, okay, well, we can hook this line up and then everything's good. We can keep moving forward. And as I said at the last meeting, it's just not that simple. Right now, the biggest challenge that I see currently is with Crittenden Livingston sending water in, definitely helps for sure. We've noticed a couple of little hiccups in some things, but the biggest hiccup is the last 4 days they haven't sent anything due to a leak. So that reiterates what we've said the whole time: you're one leak away from a problem. So finding the solution, and I know Division of Water is working, and with Jeff, and Jeff's working hard on it, and Trevor and Tom, to find the correct way to treat the city lake water. But it is, it's not the best of water in the world. It's treated, but finding the right solution. But you could end up looking at a point of having 3 different sources and trying to send all that through the system and keep everything treated and good. It can get a little complicated, but I know that that's getting worked on very hard. So I want everybody to know that everybody's all hands on deck, trying to get the water quality right. Hopefully the boil water lift, that's a Division of Water, but get the boil water lifted in the hopeful near future and kind of have that part behind us. The financial part, and this is just about going to wrap me up. This is the kicker here, okay? The city of Marion, they are members of Kentucky Rural Water, just who I work for. So being a member with us, The city pays public knowledge of $2,300 a year. That is a membership fee for us to come and respond to things or help whenever needed. Okay, so that's where we are. I just want that to be known, that that's where we are. With the loss, I think there was some confusion on where the loss started for the city as far as numbers being right or wrong. I have ran this 15 times and so have 3 of my other coworkers, and it is 100% accurate. And I've got the papers if anybody would like to see them. For the month of June, there was 12 million gallons pumped from the water plant. There was 5.8 million gallons sold. That's through the end users and the citizens here in Marion. So that is a loss of 52%. Now, if you take the 6.2 million that is lost and you divide that out by 30 days and then divide it out by your minutes in a day, you end up with 143 gallons a minute, which is exactly what has been recovered with 4 gallons a minute to spare. So we're right where we thought we were. So we're there. With that being said, the cost of treating water, and we look at what's been lost. So we're looking at the 6.2 million. The cost of treating water, there's not a 100%. This is exactly what the cost is, but we're going to average this at $2.50 per thousand. I've heard as low as 204. I've heard as high as 275. So we're going to break it in the middle. So give or take a few numbers off this, but this is going to be within the 95 percentile. With 6.2 million gallons lost per month, that is 205,920 gallons per day. You do the math on that, that's $514 a day. The same math for what that is in a month is $15,444 per month. The same calculation per year comes out to $185,328 per year. Once you add in employee overtime costs with what it takes to run overtime that's had to happen to keep the plant operational aside of what has to be, you can add another 25 to 30,000 roughly for that. Putting that near 215. Once you add in pumping costs, electrical cost, the amount of chemicals that you're going to save because you're not having to send them out, you total up about $250,000 a year that's been saved. With that being said, if we jump back to where I was talking about the master meter getting put in for the $25,000 to $30,000, as well as the leak loggers for $50,000, you have put the resources needed with the money you're going to save. I understand it's not money you've got sitting in the bank at the moment, right. but this is money that's going to be saved if it stays. That amount is good for if the water stays where it's at right now from a loss capacity. So the more that the city can do to keep that going, that's how much money you're going to be able to keep.
Absolutely.
You know, so that's the biggest thing to it. And I personally, from the bottom of my heart, I want to see this go so far and beyond the best expectations that it possibly could. All right. I mean, I've lived here for a month. I've become to feel like I'm family to everybody here, you know. But I want to see this succeed. I want to see it done right. Now, I don't have any authoritative capacity by any means necessary, but I'm always going to be here to help. I'm not leaving now. I am going to have to respond to East Kentucky right now. I'm going to have to. But we've got things in a good somewhat of a good state right now. And I know Jackie and Shannon and Alicia, everybody's working on water quality right now, working with Jeff and those at the plant. So I know that those things are gonna still be getting done from their part. But I just ask to please take some of this to heart, and whenever this water loss plan and conservation plan is made public, or made to y'all, and then if you publicize it or whatever, that's fine. But I just, from my heart, ask you to put it in the city's heart, because it really is in the best interest, and with these kind of dollars, man, y'all can do so much. Y'all can do so much.
So basically, what we couldn't detect now with an investment of $70,000, was that right?
Yeah.
$70,000. I
Say
mean, $70,000 to $80,000. We'd be able to detect the leaks as they happen, pinpoint them.
Which is exactly what we've done, pinpointing to within a few foot.
And save $250,000 a year.
Exactly.
I mean,
That's
it's,
what I'm asking or advising y'all to put in is nothing short of the resources that we have used to do this.
Sure.
And that's along with Kentucky Rural Water and Reveal. Granted, they had, like 4 guys, at times we had 2 or 3. I understand that. It don't take anybody to run that. It runs itself, and like I said, you can access that from anywhere. Putting the loggers out, you may have to have 2 people putting those out, 2 people to collect them, something like that. But it's doable. It is 100% doable, and I think that you guys would see the benefit of it if you spend it.
I feel like it'd be a great benefit, and it's something for the council to discuss and hopefully make that purchase.
Right.
So,
Well, like I said, and I've got those contacts, I've got those quotes, I've got any information that you need about them, as well as the personal experience in using them.
perfect.
But anyway, that's all I've got. So,
Cody, appreciate everything you've done, sir.
absolutely.
And I guess, have you shared those contacts with Adam?
No,
Would
but
he-
I'm gonna get them. Actually, I just got the final stuff in today, and actually Adam was the next person to get them to. He'll have them on his desk by the end of tomorrow.
Right on. Well, thank you again for everything.
Yep.
So, I know y'all worked hard, so
Trying to, man.
thank you very
Trying
much.
to. Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
I know that as far as the bottled water distribution center went, I know Jason and Danielle had some updates there that they were going to share as well. Jason.
Jason knew he was fixing to get called out, so is that where? Did he?
Smart.
I'm hiding over here.
Yeah,
Oh, you're hiding, oh.
So, as far as the water distribution, I have the numbers for July. We handed out a total of 47,062 gallons of water. And we average about 1,700 family members a week.
Do you want to talk about what had been dumped at the lakes?
Yes,
think
I
you
can go
had
ahead
those
while I'm up
numbers.
here and do that too. I also have the haul numbers for the month of July. So we totaled 4,065,000 gallons that was hauled into Old City Lake. This is with the National Guard, P&H Trucking, and Shouse Trucking hauling. So we do have 2 places we're hauling from right now, and that's gonna be the Trade Water and Mill Bluff Springs.
And how many trips are they getting a day now? Do you?
What are they averaging, Jason, about? I'm gonna say averaging about,
Wait,
I'm gonna say about 20 loads a day. So between 20 loads for Shouse and somewhere around 20 loads for P&H, I believe, it's somewhere in there.
Well, I know they've been working hard, so appreciate their efforts too. That's,
I'll add to with Danielle's numbers. Of course, today you didn't see the trucks running because of the levee overflowing, thank goodness. So we didn't want to throw good money after bad, so to speak. They probably will not run tomorrow. And we'll kind of take it day by day as far as when we're going to get them started back.
sure.
So, and I'm sure you've all seen throughout the last month, some days the trucks are running, some days are not. We'll have less trucks. A lot of it's been a learning experience and how we better process week to week as far as getting water straight into the lake. And I think we've finally gotten to about where it needs to be and about as best as we can get it. So, without wasting anything.
They get after it, and it really looks good out there. They've got a good routine set up, so that's,
Big thanks to county road crews, special state road crews. A lot of y'all hadn't seen, but they pretty much came in from what was that old City Lake and have built, I call it a 6-lane superhighway out there now, so.
been dumping straight
really
into the
looks good,
lake.
and it has increased the flow of traffic, so.
Yeah, it's really good. Thank you, Jason.
Just to kind of follow in, with some of the things they've been saying has already been reported. City Lake, as of today, is spilling over the top. The best laid plans of mice and men, as you know, several of us spent some time out there filling sandbags. Those sandbags didn't last long yesterday. It was a great idea in concept, but in actual practice, it ended up not working. So they got pushed over, and so it's in a spill state, which, and of course, the valving over at Lake George is shut off. So all of the water that is draining into Lake George right now is sitting in Lake George. It's not being, we're not manually allowing water out of Lake George, so that it hopes that if we need some of that water as we move forward, that's available to us. Going back to the water plant a little bit, as you heard, and I asked Jeff right before the meeting. Jeff's hiding somewhere back there. Jeff, my understanding is as of right now, Crittenden and Livingston it has us completely shut off. Apparently, talking with the paper, they said that they've had another leak. So, have they given you any indication?
Yeah, well, tomorrow probably, they were down with lightning last night.
Okay.
So their storms had the plant down.
So-
They have a stretch pad low.
So for the last few days, as it was reported, we haven't been receiving water, but of course, our volume is up as far as what's available to us.
But isn't that a problem that would never cease with Crittenden and Livingston? Even with the connection going north, okay? I mean, this is according to Crittenden and Livingston's people. I'm asking a question. Even with that connection, is that not drawing water from the same connection coming here that we're drawing from now? Off the same line?
The direction that the water is coming, you're just referring to Sturgis. The water,
Yes.
right, the water from Sturgis and from Webster are coming into the same area of the Crittenden and Livingston
So
system.
anytime there's a rupture on that line, the city of Marion's out of water.
Well, right now.
No
remember-
matter which way it's coming from, because it's being supplied by the same line.
Correct, but right now, I'd also point out, Darren, that we are not a contracted party with Crittenden and Livingston.
Well, I understand.
And, as we've reported before, and I wasn't gonna blindside him tonight, but, an agreement was in the process of going through the channels, and put you on the spot, Bart. Do you know if that agreement has been drafted at this point for an agreement between us and Crittenden and Livingston?
Oh, yeah. Jared signed it.
Oh, okay. I didn't even have it in my.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
I guess that happened while I was on quarantine. I apologize.
My question particularly didn't refer to contracts. It's more of a logistical issue. We're still on top of the hill. Anytime there's a blown line, they can't get water to us. No matter if it's coming from that way or this way, that's the same line supplying that way is supplying this way. So if that line's gone,
I can answer that.
Okay.
It depends on where the line break is. So, a couple of different things to think about. There's a capacity issue at Crittenden Livingston. So the connection to Sturgis would add additional capacity that could be pulled into their system. And with that additional capacity, then with a line break, depending upon where it is, they may or may not have to shut you off.
so is that something they're storing at Sturgis?
Sturgis has a water plant, and they also.
Yeah, I
purchase from
understand it, ma'am, I'm sorry. But you said that would give additional capacity. So is that something that Sturgis is going to start storing more water than they do now?
They
Is
would-
that where the
they
extra
would either
capacity
be-
comes from?
They would either treat more water or purchase more water to supply what's needed. Again, not fully serving the system, but providing a portion of water.
But they
that would-
could run water even if the water wasn't coming to them. But still, my point is, we're always second to somebody else.
So right now, because they have other contractual customers, they will turn you all off because you're not a contract with them to make sure they can meet the contracts that they already have.
But if
And-
they're making as much water, and I don't mean to interrupt you, I can't keep my train of thought here. But if they're making as much water as what they have told me as they can, okay? Then at any point, even if they contracted with us, they still couldn't make enough water to meet that demand if there was a leak, because they are at their limit to make water.
But they're gonna be pulling in more water from Sturgis. And so the way it's set up now is they're pulling water from Webster County Water District. The water from Webster County Water District is not making it to Marion. It's serving a portion of Critton and Livingston's system. So that's relieving pressure off of Critton and Livingston so that they can send you all water. Same thing with Sturgis. That additional capacity that would be coming into their system, it alleviates demand that their water plant would have to meet. And so if they have a line break, they've got some additional capacity that could keep up with line breaks with the additional water that would be coming in from Sturgis.
But to hook up to that line there, that's going to put, if we were drawing our water off of that line, that's going to put all of our neighboring water systems in a bind. I mean, they're all gonna be working as much as they can just to keep us water, correct?
Again, if you're talking about a line break, it really depends on where the break in the system is, because Critton and Livingston's water district is very large. And so right now, because they're so close to capacity at their water plant, when they get a break, they shut you all off, no matter where the break is, because they need to conserve that capacity for all of the purchasers that they have a contract with. If there's water coming in from Sturgis, that will alleviate some of the pressure put on the water plant. And so they could have a line break in another part of the system that doesn't have anything to do with Marion, Sturgis, Webster County, nothing. But since they can pull in, they'll have the extra they can pull in from Sturgis, it alleviates some of the pressure on the plant, it frees up a little bit of capacity so that they could still meet demand. I mean, and not 100%, but it's just an additional safety factor.
Right, but as we've heard from the gentleman from rural water, anytime you have a buildup in pressure, you're gonna have leaks, okay? So if they're having to pressure that water up to get it to us more so than what their lines are either rated at or what they're normally used to doing, they're going to continue to have more leaks on Webster and Critton and Livingston.
Well, and that's part of the engineering process and the type of pumps they're gonna be using, the variable speed pumps, pressure reducers. That's what part of the engineering is taking into account. And so if this project coming from Sturgis were designed to fully serve Marion, it would be a completely different design. You would need different types of line, you would need different types of pumps, you'd probably need another storage tank. But the way they're designing it is a temporary solution. It's not designed to fully serve Marion. And so the water will be coming into Marion at a lower pressure than what some customers may be used to. It'll still be adequate pressure, it'll still be legal pressure, but it may not be quite the pressure that some people are used to. But that is to protect the system infrastructure in place between Sturgis and here.
So that could not directly supply for Siemens. I mean, are we talking about enough pressure for their
Yes.
water, for their sprinkler systems? I mean,
There should be adequate pressure for all of that, to my understanding, and I'm not an engineer, so just keep that in mind. But that is my understanding, that it would be adequate for that, but it may not be as much as it is now.
so anytime their system's kicked on, the customers, our customers would lose water pressure.
I think that whatever the water pressure happens to be, once this connection is put in place, would be a consistent, I don't think that you would notice swings in it. I think it would be more of a consistent pressure. But again, I'm not an engineer.
Because we have enough volume to cover that is,
I don't know that I fully understand the question that you're asking, but I do know that the engineering is taking into account necessary pressures in the system, volumes, and all of that. All of that is being looked at, so. And again, like I said, it's a temporary, it was the quickest way to get additional water in. It hopefully will eliminate the need for raw water hauling, but it's not by any means permanent.
It's not your long-term solution.
It's not long-term.
okay.
It's a bridge to bridge the gap.
I appreciate that. So, I mean, is Caldwell County the permanent fix? Can we ever put the levee back in? Can we ever make our own water again? I mean, Crittenden and Livingston, as I understand, now you correct me if I'm wrong, has to have a $25 million upgrade to their plant to supply us, okay? Plus, there has to be a 10-mile line established, a 12-inch line established to haul that, right? Caldwell County says they can do it right now, and we need 11 miles to get to them. The levee, obviously at this point, what I'm seeing and everything, they're not expecting that that's gonna be fixed for less money than that? Is that the way you?
Well, what I want to say to that question is, the answer really needs to be decided between the city and whichever direction you decide to go. We are here to support your efforts, but we're not here to tell you how you need to do it.
No, I'm just asking, you're obviously know more about this than we do. That's why I'm asking.
All
Okay?
of those options would be engineered options, the city would need to decide which option they want to pursue, get the engineering done, send it to the Division of Water for approval, obtain funding for it. But that is a long-term decision that you all need to decide what path you want to follow.
So is the line running to Union County enough to, once, let's say that's established and it's working and we're not having leaks and we're getting water and all that's good, is that enough water to remove the state of emergency, or do we still stay in the state of emergency?
We'll still be in a temporary holding pattern. I don't know exactly how the state of emergency will be viewed. That's not my area of expertise at all.
Well, I understand. Well,
It
I'm
looks
just
higher
asking
than
because
the
obviously
city
you're
and the county
providing us a lot of resources, a lot of money that we do not have, okay? And once, if that connection is made and that connection is seen to suffice, then the state of emergency is lifted. Now the city of Marion is on the hook for all the money from then on.
Shandon just indicated that it goes till the end of the year. So the state of emergency that the governor declared is till the end of the year. And then
at the end of the year, if the mayor and the county judge executive still feel like they need to be in a state of emergency, then they request the governor to extend it.
The governor to okay the state of emergency.
And I
So
would-
it really wouldn't have a lot to do with that line if that line was, I mean, obviously it would to the governor, but,
to be an assessment at that time.
Yeah.
You know, of the
okay.
situation.
And the Division of Water is not going anywhere, whether y'all like it or not. You're stuck with us for a while. I mean, and our, we will continue to offer the resources that we can. That's what we do.
So, I know this is kind of a hindsight question, but it's relevant even looking forward. Considering the amount of time and money and engineering and effort put into all these little connections everywhere else, wouldn't it have made and make more sense to do the Caldwell connection straight into Marion and save money? We'd save tons of money. I mean, you've got a couple $1 million in National Guard expense and the trucks that they wrecked, the expense of all the water haul. I mean,
Well,
That's an
it's-
engineering solution that I think Adam just now has the actual engineering plans for.
I hadn't got to that
I
part
mean,
of
we're
the
talking
update.
full line, not into Crittenden Livingston, I'm talking a full straight line to us.
And that's to
Not
Princeton,
10
not
miles.
to
Right,
Well,
Caldwell.
I mean,
no,
and-
from Caldwell
and
line,
again-
Princeton.
And again,
Princeton water off Caldwell line.
Sturgis is the quickest means of getting additional water into the system without water hauling. I mean, the goal of the Sturgis connection is to eliminate raw water hauling. To connect to Caldwell through, the shorter connection or even the long connection to Princeton, that's too long. Like, you all needed something yesterday.
Yes.
Yeah, what the contractor said, he could lay the line in, what, 2 weeks? He could have a line laid from, Fredonia into Marion?
But he didn't have the engineering and you
Well,
have that
engineering-
now?
Well, and since we continue to keep talking about it, let me point out, in your packet, for tonight's council meeting was the emergency water line connection. That is the design and specs from Bell Engineering, to run a 3-mile line, roughly 3-mile line, connecting around Fredonia, the Caldwell system, not Princeton, the Caldwell system to Crittenden and Livingston. And that would allow for the injection of water coming from Princeton into the Caldwell district, into Crittenden and Livingston's district, into ours. It's not the straight shot. It was much more our desire to find a quicker solution to get water to us.
There was talk at one time of running a line from Princeton, water turned into Caldwell's water lines, just the other side of Fredonia. They run a line into Marion, cause Caldwell didn't, Crittenden and Livingston did not want us on their lines. They didn't want that tap in there because it was gonna interrupt their system, and again, they've got more leaks. And it was gonna be a straight line from Fredonia all the way into our plant.
And that's one thing I'll go ahead and say that we need to look into sooner than later, because after we look at the Lucille Mines thing, instead of spending money there or elsewhere, we need to look at the long-term solution. If it is the lake, you guys wanna spend the money on the lake, or it is, I'm afraid Crittenden and Livingston would be a longer wait if we were waiting for them to redo their plant and
Oh, that
everything.
never happened, yeah. They don't
So
want us to
if
do
it is Princeton, that's something we need to decide
Yeah,
fairly quickly, and then
We're almost 3 months into this, we could have had a line laid now.
What's
Caldwell.
yeah, we're talking about multiple things.
Sturgis.
Yeah.
Sturgis,
Encroachment permit was approved by KYTC to lay the line on the right of way and hang the line from the bridge. The engineering plans have been submitted for approval, and a list of needed equipment and pipes and pumps was all sent to finance for procurement.
So what's the timeline?
Target date to have it turned on is August 29th for school to start.
We want to see. That's what I'm saying with the time frame. They're not, granted, I'm no engineer by any
There
means.
is absolutely no way, with all due respect, that that type of line could be laid in 2 weeks. I'm sorry, I don't know who told you that, but that is,
Well,
that cannot happen. You've got easements to think about.
Well, if it came up to
There's just-
641 roadway, those things, cause it,
Yeah,
But-
but that's not that's not the full route. I mean, there would be some additional things going on, but that's just, we went for the quickest solution.
There is particularly some area around Fredonia that would not be part of the states. That would
yeah,
have
I know
to
there
be
was a
included.
couple a mile or something through there that would,
There's an entire map here, if you would,
shows
in the plan. Obviously, it's not real good coming in black and white copies in your packet, but you can get a pretty good idea of what the path that Bell Engineering is proposing. My intent is to present this, plan, to Jason tomorrow with the intent of us sending it up the, is it JAG? Is that the proper term? Your system?
Oh, with BOC?
Yeah, for the purposes of being considered as part of the more immediate, solution rather than, being viewed as a longer-term solution. With that said, I have also, not putting all our eggs into one basket, presented this to Kyle at PAD. And last week, he was starting to work on grant opportunities to include this 3-mile line, should we need to go that direction.
because like Darren did say, with all we have going on right now, or anything long-term, we are on the hook for, so.
And this is coming from, just to reiterate for other people, I mean, I know most of the council members know this, but this would be a water line coming in from a different direction than the Webster or Sturgis. Obviously, you know from the map, that's a different direction, but it comes in on a different part of the Crittenden and Livingston system. and could potentially make for a better interconnection system for us that might not put us out of water when they run into a leak in the other areas. Did you have any more questions before I move on? Since I don't know if we answered or at least gone over what you guys wanted on that side of things before I move on to the next part of the update. If so, I'll move on to BFW. You also had in your packet for tonight a report from BFW July 15th. It explains what they were proposing to do towards the end of the month. Most of this work has now been conducted. The report out from it is not prepared yet. They just completed, I believe, last week. This information was requested by the state in order to put together a final plan to either fix or cap our equipment to do something at Lake George. In addition to what they'd offered up initially in this plan, I know that the state had asked for some extra stuff to be included in it, and they were in the process of trying to meet those demands as well. So that kind of covers what we're doing out there at Lake George in preparation for being able to make some determinations. Our focus out there right now is primarily on getting better access to the basin and to use more of the basin for the purposes of storing water and using it to supply our needs, moving more towards an intermediate need. Obviously, there is enough water sitting in there to be a short-term need, but to be more of an intermediate need as we move forward. The last thing I had, do you have any questions about that before I move on to the Boyle?
On to the what?
To the Boyle advisory.
Yes, are we looking at all into the cleaning of City Lake?
You mean the dredging of City
Yes,
Lake?
I mean, you don't particularly have to dredge. I mean, you can take, would be best. I mean, but you get a 50-foot reach track hole. We're 165 feet from side to side, okay? We can access both sides. We have two neighboring owners that would be interested in having the material coming out of there, all right? So we're gonna leave ideally, we would leave a 50-foot island through the middle of it, you know, without dredging it. I don't have those numbers yet because I just haven't had time to put it together, to be honest with you. But I mean, we're talking about hundreds of millions of gallons to clean that lake out that's got 3,500 acres of runoff. And you see what happens in a 3.5-inch rain.
The short order.
I mean, I don't understand why it's not a good option.
The short answer to your question is no. We do not have an engineering team currently working on that option. If that's something you want us to look into, I'm happy to approach and get pricing from an engineer to do.
Would it have to be engineered?
Well, when you run into
You're just
there,
clearing out
I'm
mud.
sure that my friends back here are thinking this too. The first thing they're going to say to us is make sure anything you do to City Lake isn't putting too much pressure on that
Right.
spillway. So they're going to want us to do.
You're not
some
gonna want
initial-
any more pressure than originally was put on it, correct? I mean, or is there do we prorate this over the years or do we have to engineer that dam to know how much it'll hold?
I mean, I think it'd be a RDM safety section question for that. And then I think there'd also be Army Corps of Engineers permits required for that. So.
I know when we were initially looking at this the week after Lake George, there was talk then about what type of engineering needs would be necessary to move forward with that. And we were looking at the time, of course, of raising the spillway. And I know there was quite a bit of pushback on what type of engineering support we'd need to make sure that the dam itself could handle that pressure. Obviously, I think if you were going to go that path, they would have similar requirements.
Well, I would think that by cleaning it, you're never gonna put that's why I'm asking if this is a prorated, if there's a percentage for the years or whatever, because by cleaning it, you're never gonna put the pressure on it that was originally intended to hold. Now, you're not gonna get down, I mean, if you think about this, you still have to have, it still has to be deeper at the intake than it is at the other end. It's not like we can go dig a big hole in the other end and make a lot of pressure when we can't get it there. Even, you know, if it's up there, we still couldn't get there without pumping it. So we're not going to put any more pressure than it was designed to hold previously by cleaning it out. That's my question. I mean, we're not adding to a spillway. We're not compromising. We're not drilling. We're not trying to attach to anything. We're just simply cleaning it back out to something near its former capacity.
And I'll agree with you on that because I've fished that lake when I was 10 years old till now. And the capacity of that lake was a lot more than what it is
Yeah,
now.
I mean,
The silt has really filled it up.
I don't know if and I wish I had some way of putting this up on the screen, but I don't. I mean, we were out there in kayaks. Me and my brother Greg were out there, and I've got the pictures. I mean, and then I went back and I pulled it up on a computer program and I scaled out. I think it was the widest there was 165 feet, I think. I can't remember. I've got all of it, and I'll bring it to you when I get it done. But it was you remember how far that was? 1,500 or how far it was front to back? Like 1,500 and something feet at 165 feet in width. That is 2 foot above. You know, it's just sediment is where it's filled in over the years. I mean, it just seems like, I mean, even if we have to dam that, which is already done naturally. I mean, you'd have to look at it. No, I'm sure y'all understand what I'm talking. You've probably looked at it. It's where it comes under the bridge. It has naturally dammed itself up. Okay, so when Shelby went in, he had to get up against the bank on this side and then clean that waterway out for us to get the water in. Okay, so as long as our water is still coming in that waterway, as long as we don't break the levee, or if you will, the dirt that's already burned up there, then it should not be a problem to go behind those 2 berms, remove the material we need removed, and then you can take that track-o with a 50-foot reach, whatever we got, okay? And then you can take those berms out and never cause a problem with the flow of water that we have now.
Sure. And look into it and see what we can find out.
Lucy on mine?
No, not yet. We're on the.
We still have the advisory. As everyone knows, we're still under a boil advisory, based upon, primarily it was originally based upon the level of chlorine that was being outlying segments of the system. Working today with the fact that the lake is in an overflow status, we've been working today, quite a few of our teams have been focused on what things could possibly be done to move us off of the boil advisory. I'm definitely going to let Jackie talk to this. Jackie, would you like to kind of tell us where we need to get to in order to possibly do that?
So we've talked about before some of the things that are causing low chlorine residuals. Heat, which we've had a little bit of a break. I think it's going to get hot again, but and then of course, oddly enough, the water conservation. So less water usage increases water age, and water age will degrade your chlorine residual. But some other things that it can affect chlorine residual are manganese and organics in the water. And as you all know, just from the discoloration that you're seeing in the water, that manganese and organics are high because the manganese and organics in the lake are super high, more than double what Jeff and the guys are used to at the water plant. And so today they spent time, since there was water flowing over the spillway, they took time to clean out some basins that needed cleaning, that they haven't had the water to clean. And we think that that's going to go a long way as far as improving water quality. And We did some testing and looked at some other things that they could do as far as chemical adjustments go. So we're hoping that with the work that they were finally able to do today with the extra water, that will help with some of the chlorine stability in the system. We'll have to wait and see how it goes, but we would love to see you all come off of this boil water advisory. Chlorine residuals remain low. When the water plant shut off and the water is only coming from Critton and Livingston, some of the chlorine residuals coming into the plant are not high enough to sustain throughout the system. So the guys did put in an additional chlorine feed to bump that chlorine up. They did that Thursday. Thank you, because I was trying to remember what today was. And so, it is something that we're looking at daily and working toward. And also, once the maintenance is done at the water plant, if you see some flushing going on around town, don't be alarmed. We are hoping to have some extra water as long as it's still spilling over. Because right now what's spilling over is just going into a creek, and so if we can utilize that for system flushing, that will also help improve the water quality. So if you see the water flushing out of hydrants, don't be alarmed. That's just, we'll only do it responsibly if we have the water to do it. But hopefully we've got a little bit of excess right now that we can work with.
And we gotta move the bad water out so we can get the better water back.
You'll see a lot of that action going on, not only today, but the next couple of days, as we try to get to a point when we might be able to lift that.
All right, do you have any other thing on the update?
That is it for the water supply and for electricity.
I got one question, just because you just mentioned it just then, that the water we're getting from Critton and Livingston, that the chlorine is dropping because of the, so if we didn't have our plant, how would that work?
It's not uncommon for water systems that purchase water to have to add their own chlorine. Whenever chlorine leaves a water plant and it travels through a system, you'll lose some of that chlorine residual. And you all are getting it, it's a good dose, it's adequate, it's just you all aren't moving any water. And so having it at a little bit lower than what it normally is when the plant is running, we're seeing even lower chlorine residuals.
Right, so I'm saying, but even if we were getting all of our water from them, we would still need our plant treated?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know.
It's not uncommon to have what they call a booster chlorination system, which it's not a full plant. It's usually with a booster pump, and then they add chlorine at a certain station.
Because of the distance it's being pushed through, yeah. Okay. All right, that's it. Next.
Well, with that being all on the update on Lake Georgian water supply, I would open it up to the public for a few questions, if you have any, and then we will move on to our other business. AJ?
Got just a quick question here. It's just something that kind of popped in my mind. But with all these interconnections that's going on, is there a possibility that funding could be secured to put another water tank on the other side of town with all these interconnections?
Well, with the interconnections being, with all the emergency interconnections being handled by the state, I don't know if that's been on, I don't know if that's possible or not. Is that something
I
that
wonder
is-
what you guys think about the possibility of adding a tank on the other side of town to handle volume?
Another tank would not be something that we would be looking at for emergency. And we have to be careful adding tanks. We've actually valved off one of the tanks to help with the water age. And an additional tank would just be more gallons of water sitting there aging. And so we have to be real careful. I know it wouldn't be part of our plan, but even if we wanted to consider something like that, I would ask that you would
Sure.
proceed with caution, because too much water in storage, it will degrade water quality.
Gotcha. Jackie?
The other question I've got, is more directed at the administrator. What's been looked into as far as like the levee repairs? Now, I viewed some documents today that come from the state, that date back to 2009, that talks about seepage at the toe of the levee. What's the city's thoughts on the repairs on what's there? Complete tear out, or?
Well, we've gotten a little bit of, depending on who you ask, you get a little bit different detail. I can tell you in talking with BFW, I believe that between BFW and the dam and levee people at the state, they're now on the same page as far as what the needs will be. But in talking with them, they're not opposed to giving us a permit, but they did make it very clear that the compaction of the dirt in the existing levee is a concern to them. And that when it was originally built, it didn't meet the standards that they would have for expectations today. And allowing us to use any part of that levee moving forward might be suspect.
Okay.
And so part of what they required BFW to do was take core samples straight down through the levee in order to determine the compaction and the quality of what was in there, to determine whether or not portions of it could be used moving forward.
Well, one thing that kind of come to mind, and this is from a construction standpoint. I used to be a contractor for a few years, and I've done quite a bit of dirt work, but possibly moving back from the levee, driving sheet piling, strip the vegetation from the existing levee and add on to it, build a new levee behind it with a new pipe.
It's interesting you bring that up. We've actually talked with BFW briefly about two different options. One would be coming in, and the other one is actually going out. We've looked at both of those options and how they might be, particularly if they're not going to allow us to use the levee that exists there today. There might be financial savings if we are going to go with Lake George to using one of those two locations, because clearly you can build it in a location that requires less buildup. If you've got natural ground that's already high, you might require less fill in order to do it. But yes, both options have been discussed with Kenny and BFW.
Okay. Well, in order to say that, because it'd definitely be a whole lot easier to move back off that levee and not move in, but and drive sheet piling and strip that existing vegetation.
It was really, one of the more intriguing options was if we actually moved further out. You know, if you look there on the side of the road, that hill's a natural hill.
Right.
We could do a much smaller potential levee if you just came out about another, 100 feet, 200 feet from where it is now. And yeah, we've had those discussions about whether or not that might be a less expensive option if we decide long-term to go towards the Lake George route.
Okay. That's all I had.
Thanks,
Thank
AJ.
you for your time.
Thank you.
One more question that our rural guy brought up. Do we not have a correlation between the amount of water we produce and what we're billing?
One thing we spent about $15,000 in September of last year doing was buying and installing a meter at the plant so that we could get a clearer number on what was being produced and sent into the system. Because at that time, we were basing it on the capacity of the system, not an actual meter that could read it. So that meter was just installed late last year. So from a water loss perspective, you might remember we were having discussions then about we had to have better information to know what we were dealing with. And unfortunately, that wasn't installed till last fall. So we only had much better information. Then you got to have a little bit of time to go through that information. And we only had about 6 months of information before this situation came up.
We're storing about 600 gallons per tank. Is that correct, Jeff?
That is correct.
Excuse me?
600,000 per tank, is that right? So, and how much do you store at the plant?
About, those tanks hold about 300,000 gallons each. 250,000 one, then 320,000 on the other one.
Okay.
We
So-
currently have one of the two tanks on the hill sealed off.
Okay.
So we're.
Did one of them only capable of holding half of it though?
No, what, we were
No, the leak
using-
was at the bottom.
The one that we repaired is actually capped off right now, so
But
that
it can hold the full.
So we're holding
6.
300,000, we're holding 600,000 gallons there.
we're holding 600 on the hill
Okay.
in the tanks.
And so what, if we are complete capacity, what can we hold? Water plant in the hill.
1.8 million, Jeff, 1.8 million?
Yeah, roughly, yeah.
Okay, so my thing with that is, according to what we were hearing earlier, we only sold 5.8 million gallons?
6.2, I think, wasn't it?
That's
5.8 million
I lost my
sold.
notes here.
It was 5.8.
5.8
Yeah.
million sold.
Yeah.
So
6.2 million
we're
dollars.
actually we can actually hold 25% of what we sell in a month? Is that right?
I would have to review those numbers.
Well, if we-
No, I'm not
if we-
taking into accounting for leaks, I'm just trying to get in my mind.
Right.
Okay.
I can tell you that prior to June, the numbers we were using for volume on a monthly basis were about 14 and a half million gallons a month.
Well, Jeff made, I'm sorry, this has been going on for a while, and my notes are a little not really that great. Didn't we make 15 million gallons in May?
Yes.
And we pumped 12 million gallons last month, so we've took 3.8 million gallons off the load now, right? Or around 3 million gallons we've taken off the load now, off the plant.
Yes.
That's all I was asking.
Next.
Did you want to move on to the mine?
I'm sorry.
Were you ready for the mine?
If there was no other questions on Lake George, I was. Okay.
Quiet group tonight.
I promise not, I'm not gonna jump back up.
We've got one behind you. Come on up here, sir.
Yes, I just, first off, I'd like to say, this is the third municipal water system I've lived on. And this is by far the best water, because it comes out of that lake, I feel like, instead of out of a river. But that being said, back to what y'all was talking about coming out off the Caldwell County system. And you was talking about the pressure problems coming off these other systems. If you come off the Caldwell County system, will you be coming to the water plant?
I would think I'd do the
Will
same.
would that do away with your pressure problems everywhere?
It should.
On the long-term solution, it would, yes.
On the short term, it is not. The short term one that I was talking with them about here, the 3 mile system, is just an interconnection from Fredonia into the Creighton and Livingston system. It is not the direct feed between Princeton and the city.
Oh, okay, so it's not coming to, it's not the 10 mile you was
No,
talking about?
Right.
The one
Yes.
that I have the designs for tonight are not the 10 mile solution.
But that one would come to the water plant and not be a issue with popping the lines everywhere.
This-
It'd be going through Creighton and Livingston's line, so yeah, you still have the.
I mean,
Not the 10 mile line.
No,
The
I
10
mean,
mile line
I mean the
would be-
10 mile line, if it came to
Right,
the
right.
water
It'd
plant.
be
yeah.
straight
And then we could regulate the pressure instead of,
Yes.
right.
And being that it is a new line, it would be built particularly to take that level of pressure.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I gotta get back up.
All right, this is our last one.
Last
We're
question.
moving on.
On that water line, if you do lay the 3 mile line, I would hope that the engineers would have the good sense to lay that to the same specifications where that the 10 mile could connect into it.
That was our plan the entire time, like hopefully that it would be a disconnect from the Caldwell County system, a disconnection from the Creighton and Livingston system, and then connect the Princeton system to our water treatment
It
plant.
wouldn't surprise me if they didn't design it where Caldwell could feed Creighton and Livingston outside of us.
And 2 points I'll add in addition to that is, one, they are planning to, their proposal is to build this with the idea that it would be prepared to be used. Even if they did it above ground, short term, it would still be of the quality that it could be buried. their proposal to us, and I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, but the difference between doing a temporary line and building as if it was a permanent line was insignificant as far as the cost difference was. It would make very little sense for us to build it with the knowledge that it was going to be nothing more than a temporary line.
Well, I brought that up. Sometimes engineers design things and they don't really think about the people that's got to work on them.
Right.
And, you know, so, all right.
Thank you. All right, we are going to move on. Water, Division of Water, appreciate y'all being here, but if y'all, I know y'all have got long drives. What?
I think they have some comments.
They have some comments on this. Oh,
about
okay,
this.
yeah, I tried getting you out of that one.
Okay, let me first go over what you have in your packet, and then I will go over, I'll go over a little more details about what I found in talking with the vendors and things of that nature. The first one you will see is a July 26th letter dated to me. And I apologize if you don't. Donnie dropped the packet, so in the office.
Don't blame it on me.
It's
I
not
put
the
it all
first
back.
page. That's not my fault.
Hang
That
on.
page reflects the permit that we were granted for the month of August to pump out of the Lucille, to discharge out of the Lucille mine. That is a one-page report. I just want to show you that we have that in place. The next is an email between myself and our contractor, CNC Pump, which describes in detail what her proposed steps were, and then a quote that presented the cost associated with that. Her cost, just so I can read it to you, was just over $30,500 for a week of pumping. I did talk to her for a clarification about if the project required more than 1 week of pumping, what would additional time cost? She indicated to me that if it ran into a week two cost would probably be an additional $10,000. So you're talking about $40,000, I would suggest, in what the pumping cost will be that is included in this process. So that's what you get as far as the CNC.
So what happened between the first estimate we had between 5,000 and 8,000, and now somewhere 39,000?
I think what primarily happened is that in the initial ones, of course, it's all verbal. We're working on less than complete information. I think that in the end, they realized in order to bring in enough casing, in order to get an item that could pump at a significant degree into a casing that was only 12 inches and do it in a thorough manner in a short window would be costly.
Well, they're talking about $4,940. I don't know if y'all have seen this. The quote is $4,940 for labor. They're showing $3,692 for a crane and $8,000 for the freight.
Yeah.
So that's the quote we're talking about. The total for that is $30,526.
But clearly, you can understand why after Jared and I received this, we wanted to present it to the council, because this is quite a bit different than what we were expecting when we had our initial conversation.
I thought we were talking about, there was a rock quarry that offered to let us use the pipe to move it over to the storage drain, or to the storm drain, and I didn't realize we were talking about, we have equipment capable. I don't know why we need the crane, and I guess we're still gonna have some of the freight. But $8,000 worth of freight, I guess, if they're moving all that pipe in. But if we're bringing the pipe in from another source, I don't understand why we would be spending, because in reality, you're spending $6,000 or $8,600 something for the crane and the labor, and we're spending $8,000 to get it here.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the cost for the generator and the pipe,
We've got,
you're talking about a $6,500
we've got generators though.
fee for the generator and the pipe.
We've got generators here big enough to carry it.
Sure. I can obviously talk with them about having us supply some of our own in order to bring down the price on this.
The county's got several big military generators.
The next thing in your packet is the full analysis that was done back in 2013 by McCoy and McCoy Laboratories on the samples that were taken then. I point this out, and this is where my friends at Division of Water can talk a little bit more about some of these things that I can't speak to. Obviously, when we ran our test in June, we were primarily focused on the standard things that you would test for in water. Whether that be iron, whether that be turbidity, or fluoride, or things of that nature. Reviewing this 2013 report, they did a full analysis of the water, and some things came up in the water that I think we should allow our friends at the Division of Water to speak.
One question before you do that.
Sure.
If I'm, Darren, see if you remember this, if I'm not mistaken though, this has got a real high sulfur content, right? Which leads me to believe this was a water sample taken from the well behind the car wash, not the Lucille mines. That's a different stream.
The sample taken from the Lucille mine at that time was never pumped either. That was surface water, that was surface influenced water. That, if that is the Lucille mine, but in my hand, there is a Pace Analytical well that was just drilled 100 yards from it that was cleared for drinking water, and there's 3 houses on it right now.
Right. I also understand, I did receive a copy of that report too. I also
think this is
understand
that old sulfur.
they didn't do a full metals test on that water either. And all I'm trying to do is present to you the information that's pulled out. I do know that it was not, in talking with Brian, they did do some pumping in the Lucille.
Well, they tried.
So that wasn't that Lucille, that was one behind the car wash in that field. That's a different run.
What does the report say on it as the location?
13, oh, well, it just says well, it doesn't.
Are
see,
you talking about the one from 2013?
Yeah,
It
that-
just says well?
That's the one, and if you go up behind the car wash down there off the left, there used to be a pipe in the ground and we couldn't find it. So they wound up drilling it again and had a small pump, and they were trying to pump it out, and then they gave up after a while. But if I'm not mistaken, that's where this sample
This
came
is saying
from.
source water well, that would lead me to believe that it is not the mine.
Right, so I'm thinking this is too high in sulfur, and you can smell that going down the road. I don't think it's the same water, is what I'm saying. What's in Lucille mine in this report.
That's what we were handed when we.
I understand, I'm not arguing that, I'm just saying, I think
Yeah, there were multiple locations at that time. We were looking at multiple locations because we came through the drought and we were trying to find an alternate water source. So there were multiple locations that were sent to McCoy.
I would
but
say.
I don't think this is Lucille mine test, I think this was a sulfur
I would
mine.
say in light of these numbers, there's a real easy way to solve this, and that is to do a full gamut of the water in the mine in order to determine what we find and what we don't find. Because obviously, if there's some concern or question about whether or not this analysis was of that water, I wasn't here. I can't
Yeah.
speak to it directly
I don't
myself.
think it is. I think this is the wrong sample for them. And I understand Alan and them based their report on this sample, but I think this came from the well we drilled back there behind the car wash. I don't think this is Lucille mine water, so
Well,
it's
it's
kind
a
of
source
irrelevant.
water well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, and that's not, the mine is not a
No.
water well.
So it's kind of irrelevant on his report, because that's not water we'd be using anyway.
Because this is the report that when we talk about the 2013 fluoride levels, this is the report we've been referencing for the 2013 fluoride levels. And
Yeah,
I after seeing this, I guess my suggestion is before we would proceed, I would recommend we do a full analysis of
Yeah.
the water.
I think
there's
I
enough
think this
question
is the
to-
wrong water source.
to address that. I can also speak a little bit to, just so that we go into this eyes wide open, and talking with the Division of Water, and I'll let them talk about inserting in a new water source. But as far as the testing goes, I've had this conversation with them, so I've asked I've looked into some of what the testing cost would be. And the suggested testing cost in order to meet that new source requirement, we can expect to be spending about $50,000 on testing as well. Just to give you an understanding. But I'll let our friends at the Division of Water talk a little bit about the steps that are going to be necessary in order to do that. I just don't understand what I'm trying to give you as a picture of as we go down this path. You understand what we're going to get into, because once we start pumping and we start spending money, we're kind of committed to doing all this. And I want you to understand before we begin that, what we're committing to.
I understand, and I would like to go on record as saying that, I said, to be honest with you, $30,000 wouldn't change my mind, okay?
And that's,
Because, I mean, we're
understand.
looking at, 17 million, whatever, 25 million. $30,000 is a lot of money, but not up against 19 million.
But I felt in light of the fact that you were expecting this to cost us $6,000, $7,000, and we now know that the pumping alone is going to cost us a significant amount more, and then we have the testing requirements. I want you to know what you're getting into in this process.
It seems like, and I'm not saying anything out, but it just seems like every time we get ready to do something, there's a roadblock that gets thrown up. And once we overcome that one and get moving, then there's another something that comes up. So, first the pumping was gonna be 5,000 to 8,000, and then all of a sudden it's gonna be over 30,000. And then now we're adding all these water tests that we were never told about, which didn't realize were there before.
Well,
apparently.
and I'd hope you'd appreciate, Donnie, that I've probably been one of the biggest advocates for moving forward with this mine. And I still remember having the conversation with Jackie and Shannon standing right by the governor the last time he was here out there at City Lake, saying,
Yeah,
as
I'm
long
sure
as the science suggests that we should continue to keep looking at this, we should. The moment the science isn't on our side, we need to reconsider whether or not this is our option. I guess today, if you're to ask me, short of another test, I don't know that the science is on our side. And that's for everyone to decide. But I'll do whatever you want me to do, spend your money however you want me to spend it. But I highly suggest that you consider doing a full gambit spectrum of the raw water before, particularly if we're concerned that this analysis is for it.
I think that's
Well, I
wrong.
don't think it would make any sense not to. I'm just trying to get us to that point where we can. I mean,
Sure.
but if I hate it. I mean, it's not, we're going to be able to trim this, okay? And I hate it if we have to spend $30,000 chasing a loose end. But we've spent a lot more than that at this point doing the same thing, so.
Yeah. I just don't want to give you any illusions about what this is going to cost or what the time frame is going to be.
I'm 90% certain.
Maintained that there would be new source water testing if you decided this was to be your choice.
We've said
Oh,
that
I'm-
from the beginning.
And that's
Been very
every
clear.
source water change.
What if it were-
So Jackie has been, checking source water quality in Crittington, Livingston the whole time, just mixing water that's already treated and then getting a whole new source water. It's a year-long process, 2-year-long process, really. Like in the normal course of things, when somebody's building a new water, these 2 years I've had with water testing, and Jackie can talk more to exactly what goes on, but she's been working with Crittington Livingston on water quality. You guys have taken water quality testing. It's very important in the distribution system to make sure that you're not introducing something. And you guys, you think about what's on the news. In the past, we want to make sure that water quality is good and maintained. So that's where the safety comes in.
If this was
Source
a,
water quality matches your treatment capability.
right,
Yes.
but if this were
Yes.
just a temporary fix, if we weren't gonna use it as a permanent water source, does that ease any of the
I think that the Division of Water would be prepared to work with you all since it is an emergency situation.
And if we were just gonna use it as a temporary to keep the lake full till a permanent
if
solution
it's,
was come up
you know,
with.
temporary, we would still require some testing,
Right.
but I think the 1 year would be something we could work with you on. But just to give you an idea of the federal EPA and State Division of Water, we regulate 90 contaminants in drinking water. And all of those things would have to be tested beforehand, just like Shannon said, to make sure the water plant is capable of treating that water. But it includes things like cryptosporidium, E. coli, turbidity, total organic carbon, alkalinity, pH, temperature, organic chemicals, inorganic chemicals, secondary contaminants, and radionuclides. So
I'm
that's
90% certain this is not the right water that was tested from Lucille Mine. And if it were to be used just as a temporary solution, then that would ease some of our.
Possibly, there is a concern, I don't know, now I don't know where that came from. I've been told this whole time that we've been working with this, that came from Lucille Mine, so that raises some questions. But there were some rad hits, the radionuclides on that report, and that's something that we would be concerned with. So you would definitely, before you spend this money, I really would encourage you to do a panel of testing initially. I know that you all wanna dump it and test the recharge rate and see what the quality is after that. But if you're dealing with some contaminants like that, you know, that's a whole different ballgame that we're messing with.
Would you like this?
If
I mean,
that's
I didn't pay for it, but I'll let you have
I've
it.
sent her a copy.
Okay.
Now that one there, is that the one you sent me?
Yes.
To whomever drilled that well, I don't know if that person's in this room. Number one, don't put more than 3 residents on one well. If you put more than 3, that makes your water system. And number 2, there's total coliform in that well and it needs to be shocked with chlorine. So just for safety of whomever is consuming that water.
We don't regulate the private wells like that with the water quality,
We don't, but I saw the report and I just wanted to make sure that that information got passed along.
I'm sure they would appreciate that.
Can we go back to McCoy and have them associate a specific address to this analysis as well as?
That's a good
Do they
question.
document with pictures?
That's a good question, Deanna, and that's why I asked what was on the report. McCoy will always list on there all the information they're provided on a location.
Surely there's something more than an ID number and a description to tie it to what it actually is.
I bet it's not.
Should
Does
be.
it
Probably
have a
not.
well ID number?
They were looking at several places
I bet
when
it's
that all
not
went
because,
on.
yeah, because when it referenced, and I hadn't seen that page, that's my bad. I had not till tonight, or till I got my packet. But where it says description of source and calls it a water well, I would almost guarantee you, because anytime we talked about the mine itself, it was referred to as a mine, and the other system, the other spot that we were looking at. But there was another spot we were looking at that was always talked about as the water well.
Were
That's
they
a high
done
sulfur.
around the same time?
Yep.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's back in the last
They were all
drought.
being done at the same time.
So we can ask for the whole lot done in that time frame sent to
I don't think
us.
they tested Lucille then.
I don't know that they ever got there. I don't think he ever got, remember we got the pump in?
They had a little
Why?
pump and tried to pump it
Yeah.
out behind the car wash there, that field, like never found the pipe. I think they had 7 new pipe. Then they
We
had a
got
small
the-
pump on it, and pumped on it for about a week and then gave up. And, cause I think we
And
got some rain or
they said
something
we
and that
never
kinda
turned the
muted
water over enough, is that right?
Yeah. It
So-
rained
Right.
and then that kinda
That's
muted
why
it.
I knew this wasn't from the Lucille, because we never turned, they never considered us to have turned the water over enough to get a good sample. The Lucille, but one of the reasons I know this is, or feel like this is not from the Lucille, is,
That high sulfur.
well, also, it says right here, high, tested very high for groundwater, and so it may be influenced by heavy water. The Lucille mine is not, in what we know of it at that time, it was not influenced by surface water.
So we can't make any decisions on this until we figure out exactly whose test this is. So
Or do our own.
We just have to do a new test.
the
And
location.
I would say that at this point. you're
You just
probably
need to do a
best-
new test on
being
Lucille
that it's
Mine only.
been another 9 years, you might as well just do your own.
Yeah.
No, don't question, don't doubt, no.
Let's do it.
So test now,
Test.
anyway.
Yeah, and then we'll know for sure where it came from and what
Already
it
did
is.
test before we didn't do any of the,
Did
So-
they do the testing on the other new source water, like what they're asking on this well before they, like we went to the well where P and H is hauling from, or?
They had already done their,
Right,
test
and
on those.
trade water?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
We
They-
have, water plant, Providence pulls from trade water, so we have pretty extensive water quality data from that. And then, online, if anyone's interested, there's a very detailed report on the, spring that's being used.
We did a groundwater study on.
If I'm not mistaken, when we originally were looking at hauling water, they looked at trade water in Ohio, and Ohio was like, eh. That's why they went to the trade water, because it was really bad down there.
All right, so we're gonna test it. All right.
So that's about 30 grand to test?
No, that's 30 grand to
The
pump it.
initial panel wouldn't be. If you're looking at, like, if you're establishing a new water source under normal circumstances, like Alicia was saying, you're gonna run into some pretty high costs there. But
Roughly how much?
I don't even know how much. I couldn't say. I know that you could call Pace, the old McCoy, and they can tell you exactly what it would cost.
I can find out tomorrow.
And we can help you with
Yeah.
what needs to be done, so.
So,
All right. I'm sorry, are we done?
That's the end of that part of it.
All right.
Rest kind of a suspense there.
Well, we're going to, I was letting Bart and Adam finish. We're going to move on to appointment of the Marion City Council person pursuant to KRS 83A 040.
just to clarify what the statute says, it is when one surviving member of the council remains, the surviving members will, have 30 days to appoint a replacement of any vacancies. So it would be up to the council to take action, to consider action on filling, the vacancy left by, Ms. Sykes'
Do
passing.
we have anyone interested?
Randy Dunn agreed to do it, and we're talking about the council. Randy agreed to do it. He does have, thank you, construction background. I mean, he understands the reading of these maps. He is a master electrician and does know how to read a budget. So, we gotta have somebody that can hit the ground running, because if it's somebody that takes 3 months to catch up, it's gonna be too late.
I had one individual reach out to me, Troy McGahan did reach out, directly to me, offering that he would be willing to serve as well.
And I had two individuals, Tracy Cook and Jason Hatfield.
Looking at everything all together, but my line of thinking is with whoever we appoint to fill in 3 months of a council person, and the mayor pro tem need to be someone who's not either running or seated, to keep it as appearance of favoring someone or giving them an advantage come election time.
You know, I mean, Jason had not told me, that's not a bad idea. I mean,
That way there's
Jason
no
was literally
favoritism,
on the
there's no-
council when these reports were done
Yep.
and when we were looking for this water source. So, I mean, he actually does have experience.
Right. And I'd be,
With exactly
I
what
just
we're
think
talking
we
about
need to
right
keep
here.
it neutral as far, with the election coming up, I think it needs to be a neutral field all the way around.
Well, what I'm looking for is a nomination, and then any other nominations.
nominate him.
And we have Jason Hatfield nominated.
Second.
Do we have any other nominations?
Well, I mean, looking at it from the way Donnie, I thought Dwight should take the.
Hold on, we're not there yet.
Pro temp is set
Oh, I'm
to
sorry,
We're
I
not there
thought-
yet.
okay, I'm
Okay,
sorry, my
so
bad,
with
my
no
bad.
other nominations,
Moving you along.
with no other nominations, appointing Jason Hatfield to the Marion City Council. We have a motion and a second.
Yeah, roll
All in
call.
favor, aye. Opposed, no. That's it. Okay, so Jason will be appointed.
Glad to see that. Glad he stepped up, because he can hit the ground running.
Okay, that also kind of messes up number 6, but
Well,
we'll get to that. No,
because
no.
Dwight's running for council.
No, I'm talking about my
okay.
appointment
Well,
to
we ain't worried
tourism.
about your.
I know.
You handle that on your own. But Dwight's running for council. He's not running for mayor, so it shouldn't be a problem with him doing mayor pro tem. I mean, he's done it before. I mean, it's not a new.
So just so everybody else, we're on number 4, appointment of the unexpired term for 2022 Mayor Pro Tem.
Correct.
So
I'd just like to nominate Dwight.
we have a nomination of Dwight. Are there any other nominations? No other nominations?
Do you have a second?
Do I have a second? I'm sorry.
Second.
Donnie, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? Congratulations, Dwight.
There's one no.
Hey, I asked him if he'd be interested, and he said, yeah, and I was like, well, you're right in the head.
Okay, well, that was sad, but I'm glad that is out of the way.
That's taking a bullet for the team right there.
Sad circumstances.
Under circumstances.
But, you know, I appreciate everything everyone's doing on that side of it. So number 5, Bart, the second reading of ordinance 22.
This is an ordinance of the City Council amending ordinance 1908, the alcohol beverage control ordinance pursuant to KRS 244.090 as amended by the Kentucky General Assembly. A person at least 18 years of age may serve alcoholic beverages, providing the individual is under the supervision of a person who is at least 20 years of age.
Motion?
We have a motion.
Second.
Dwight, we have a second.
I'll second.
Darren, how do you vote?
Darren?
I hear you. I've got a lot of problems with this. I don't know.
Okay.
Yes.
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 Yes, Michael. Yeas have it. Thank you. All right. Now, we're going to do one part of the consideration of the appointments for the Marion Tourism Board for the expired terms. Jason Hampton was going to be reappointed. Well, we will fix that, but I do have one, Katie Wheeler replacing Corey Wheeler on her expired term. She owns Game Day and Front Porch. So if I could have a motion to accept Katie, Michael, and second Deanna.
Second.
Who made the motion?
Mike and second Deanna. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you, ayes have it. Chief, on number 7, with consideration of identifying items as surplus and offering to government bodies of Eastern Kentucky, is Chief in here? There he is. Would you like to tell the council about what you had brought up and would like to do?
Yes, I'd like to see the council let me surplus a 2008 Ford Crown Vic. And if we need to do this in 2 parts, you let me know. But I'd also like to ask the council to let me donate it to one of the Eastern Kentucky towns that are in need of a police car right now.
I saw that ad, that request for.
There was one town in Whitesburg lost 7 vehicles one night. So they're begging for vehicles. And this car, like I said, is 14 years old. It's got 130,000 miles on it. Still got some use out. They could get some good use out of it. I wasn't going to surplus it at this time. I was actually going to wait until our new vehicle came in, but we've had an officer quit, so that vehicle is not being used at this point in time.
Well, whenever you brought that up, we've been so blessed with all the impouring support that we've had through our water crisis, and if we can do this to help somebody else, I hope the council is in favor of saying, just make a motion.
I appreciate Ray doing that.
We have a motion by Michael, and we have a second by Donnie. All in favor, aye. Aye. Send it to them. So, thank you. All right. Well, Ms. Phyllis always like to make the motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Good and got close.